Welcome to the Accounting Arc Podcast, where analysis, reaction, and comedy collide to tackle the big topics from the world of accounting and beyond. Join our trio of transformation agents as they discuss the hottest topics in and out of the profession, from breaking down industry trends, to reacting to everyday events, to uncovering the hidden humor in numbers. With wisdom, insight, and a dash of levity, they're proving that accounting isn't just about the numbers. It's about life. Because after all, accounting is in everything. The Accounting Arc Podcast starts now.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another ARC episode, and today Rachel is here with me, and I recently met Rachel at a CPA practice advisor, and I'm trying to think what they call them anyway. It was right before Engage, and it was a mix of the 40 under 40 group and the Thought Leaders group, and Rachel was from the 40 under 40 group. And so welcome, Rachel. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Awesome. Thank you, Donny. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Rachel Farris, and I am the managing partner at my own tax advisory practice. And then I'm also the founder and CEO at an AI firm that basically helps with AI advisory, implementations, and custom workflows for accounting firms.
Oh wow, that's interesting. So tax a little more traditional, but I think your tax practice isn't that traditional, right? Tell us why that's the case.
Yeah, so super interesting. Being a smaller firm, we've really focused ourselves on niche specialization. So we help US citizens move to Puerto Rico under the tax incentive. So kind of a very specific area. We don't service kind of like your everyday Joe down the street. It tends to be high net worth people or people in crypto or have, startup businesses that want to relocate down for the 0% capital gains, interest and dividends, or the 4% corporate tax rate. So super interesting. We do white glove service. So it is much more than just filing a return. It involves kind of the whole process of advisory, even from like moving advisory.
Wow. How did you come to do that?
Yeah, this is always a funny question. People are like, how did you find Puerto Rico? You don't look Puerto Rican. So I had family friends that moved down. And at the time, there was only one other US-based CPA that was handling this transition process. Their income threshold or asset threshold to work with them was much higher than what my family friends had. And so they said, Rachel, you're a CPA. I know you don't have a lot of experience with Puerto Rico, if any at all, but would you mind just taking a look over it? Does this seem legit? And I said, what? Sure. I love learning, right? I love the curiosity and kind of the research part of accounting to begin with. So I dove into it, did that for them, and then they kept referring me off to friends upon friends upon friends. And all of a sudden I was like, there could be a real business here. Maybe I should start charging more than I'm charging right now. So I jumped ship and started my own business, and that's really how I found myself, the Puerto Rico niche.
Out of curiosity, since you just mentioned charging, do you charge, or do you know whether you charge more, or do you get a higher rate because of the specialization, or?
100%. Yeah, it is definitely a higher rate. We don't do hourly billing necessarily. We do like fixed plan-based billing for the most part. Very rare occasions where maybe it's someone looking into moving down that we will take on kind of like an hourly consulting fee just to like go through their numbers. But for the most part, we're fixed plans. So we onboard someone and we come up with a full price for the year for that project. And then usually with time that kind of dwindles down, but average client engagement, I would say, is up like 30,000 plus. And that's kind of just for like standard work. If we're getting into very complicated cases, you're talking 50,000 plus for the full year for someone. So it's definitely higher than what someone might be charging just for a return. I think, I think my old tax guy before I started doing my own, he charges like $1,000 for a return or something like that, right? So it's definitely a large multiple on top of it. Yeah.
My firm's pretty complex because we're in 10 states, And so I had some tax planning work done, and it was definitely not in the tens of thousands to have that done.
Yeah, I think the difference is that really the drive to move down to Puerto Rico is high net worth people. So you're dealing with people that do have many entities, that do have, trust estates. They have a lot of moving parts. And if you come to me and you say, it's just me, I just have one investment portfolio, I'm going to say you probably don't need my services. I'm going to say you definitely don't need the level of detail that we provide. And so I can give you recommendations to someone that's going to provide maybe more traditional. But the people that come in the door for me want something very complex. They understand the compliance issues of moving down. They have a very long-term vision for themselves. So we're not just planning for the next couple years and getting a return out. We are doing very long-term planning, oftentimes like even successional planning for their successors. So there's a lot of moving parts that we're able to handle in-house.
Wow, that makes sense. Does that mean succession planning and things? Does that mean you're having to work with a lot of lawyers too?
We work with lawyers constantly, both on the Puerto Rican side and on the US side. I kind of have a set group of lawyers that I personally like just because you have to know Puerto Rico to an extent. Because if you're a really great lawyer based out of California, but you've never done anything in Puerto Rico, it's a completely different ballgame. So you need people that understand both sides of the situation. Yeah, I would say I'm in a lot of meetings with lawyers sitting in when possible. It's us coming up with a plan. Same with wealth managers or family offices, oftentimes very looped in with them as well. So if people come on with like a certain strategy and they want, their investment manager to talk through it or something like that, I'm on calls with them. Anyone that's involved in that planning process, I'm like knee deep in it. I've talked with very interesting people, like even like this is the head of my warehouse or something like that, and I'm just trying to understand what they do. So it's exciting though, right? You get to see just totally different facets of life. You get to see very different levels of income, and you get to interact with very different people, which I find very exciting.
I do. Me as well. Just being in advisory work, just yes, the breadth of people that you get to talk to that's not your traditional other tax person or other accountant type of person is always amazing. I think too, especially from a student standpoint point of view, that they don't understand how we are often the center point around whatever it is we're trying to help happen. For you, it's that move to Puerto Rico. For me, it's helping through a transformation. Like you do have to talk to all of these other people and kind of pull all that together to create that plan that's really going to be executable and realistic.
100%. It's more of a people role than I think other people realize going into it, and definitely more than I realize. I'm a big people person, you know me. I'm very social. And so people would often say, "Yeah, like, why are you going into accounting? You're just going to be behind a computer all the time." Yeah, sometimes I am behind a computer, but surprisingly, I spend so much of my time engaging with clients and really getting to know their situation. Some of them call me friends. They're like, let's grab a drink, let's do this, let's do that. And obviously, I don't take them up on it, but it is a really fun dynamic. And I have that same relationship with lawyers that you build a really wide network, especially within a niche. Everyone knows everyone. You're going to dinner parties, you're going here, you're networking, you're really creating dynamic relationships that last for a really long time. And that's a part of accounting that I don't think a lot of people see, that I see so much potential to grow into.
I love the way that you describe that and also I am going to point out again, you're part of that 40 under 40, and a lot of younger people, I'll say it that way, uh, don't like to network is kind of what we get told, and that I'm a Gen X. So we get told like, yeah, these younger ones, they don't like to network, they don't like to do this stuff. But you were at the networking event for our two groups, and it sounds like you really like networking. Why do you think networking kind of gets misconstrued, or why is this perception created that young people don't like to network?
That's a really great question. I think it's two faceted. I think on one side, social networking, right? We see sometimes networking as following someone and liking their posts on social media. So when it comes to in-person networking, sometimes people don't see a need for it. I think the second part of it is that we are often afraid to sell ourselves, and networking can feel a little salesy. Now, I'm not saying networking should be salesy. You should genuinely be trying to get to know someone. But if you're not feeding into that and providing information about yourself and being vulnerable in different ways, you're not really able to build a strong network. And I think a lot of younger people are a little afraid to toot their own horn and go out to these opportunities. For instance, 40 and 40. It's very intimidating walking into that room and you're seeing, I see you on a podcast. I've seen you speak at conferences in front of thousands of people. And then there's little old me walking up to that table, right? I think a lot of people are afraid to put themselves in a position of vulnerability like that. They're afraid to be like, I deserve to be at the same table. I deserve to walk up to someone. Versus my dad has always told me it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. So I take opportunities. Like from a young age, have just been like sending out messages on LinkedIn. If someone comes and speaks to the school, I'm waiting around after. Like, even if it's like the president of the AICPA, I'm like, right after they finish talking, I'm right up there, like IRS commissioner, like I'm in the door. And because I always like to say, and young people should think this too, the worst someone can say for the most part is like, no, I don't have time. I have never had a situation where someone has been angry at me for approaching with true, like, I'm very curious about what you do, right? I think that's what you need to approach it with too. It's curiosity. Don't approach it where sometimes I get young people that come to me that are like, just an elevator pitch, like hire me for a job. And I'm like, hold up, that's not the purpose of networking. It's a feed of back and forth. And I also think that's kind of a big part that's missing that maybe feeds into that social networking point of view where it's like I'm giving you a like, give me a like, but that's the extent of it. It's not dialoguing back and forth.
I love the way you describe all that. That's definitely helpful from a perspective. Well, you mentioned earlier that so we've been talking about your tax side, but you also do this other side, this AI side, and that's what everyone seems to be worried about as well, is that AI is going to take away our jobs and make us irrelevant. But tell us what your AI company does, and you also just said like you want to be in front of all these people instead of in front of a computer. How are you doing this AI stuff? Because isn't that all being in front of the computer?
Really, really, really good question. So I'll address the first part of that. The AI company, we basically started creating solutions in-house for my own tax advisory firm. And what came from that was people were like, what's in your tech stack? What are you using? And I was like, yeah, we use some of the traditional stuff, but actually we created our own tools because it really matched like our niche specialization and what we needed for our clients. And we had people that were like, well, that'd be so cool if I could have that for my practice. So the business person in me got my wheels spinning, and my business partner and I decided to kind of bring that solution to the market. So, if you're just doing traditional tax work, you're filling out a return, there's nothing involved with tax planning or advisory, or, you're just checking boxes, right? This probably isn't for you. But if you have anything that involves a little bit more of kind of a custom workflow, we will build that out for you. We have meetings with people and we fully build out like new solutions, and we can even plug into some of your existing systems. And then we also do AI advisory. So if you're like, hey, I don't necessarily need something custom, but help me figure out what's on the market, help me make sure that it's secure, right? We're not going to be processing client data like that. Help me set everything up so it actually like works and flows together. We can do that too. Our big thing is security. So we actually have like a private server that if you're using one of like the open, like let's say you use Claude or Gemini, we actually sends it to our server first. It'll destroy the client's personal information and then just sends numbers back to like the AI processing thing. So it makes it so it's very, secure. You're not dealing with like data privacy issues as much. And I think that leads to the second part about sitting in front of a computer screen. Obviously, a lot of that sounds very much like sitting in front of a computer screen, but you'd be surprised about the human element of it too. I need to get in there and understand from every single major stakeholder what goes on in their daily life, what makes them kind of tick, what do they like about their job, what do they want to keep around, what would they prefer just to get out of the way. And so because of that, I would say almost 50% of what I do is talking with people, reiterating with people, getting to understand a totally different job title. Like I know so much about HR now just because of the fact that like I am talking to people that are in HR at accounting companies, right? And so because of that, it's been a really fun process. And it's not like I'm just sitting here, build something, send it off to them, they send me an email back. It's like, let me walk through this together. We're going to talk through how this process goes. What do you like? What do you not like? And it adds kind of a human element to the technology too, which I think they like, because if there's something wrong, it's not just like they're getting mad at the computer screen. They can get mad at me, but that doesn't happen too often. So it is nice where, you're able to add kind of a human element to something that is increasingly becoming inhuman.
Ooh, I like the way you said that too. So that's the majority of my job and my team's job is, and you're right. We are interviewing. People ask me like, "What's my day like?" I'm like, I'm literally in meetings all day, and whilst
Mhm.
some will go, "Oh, that sounds horrible," it's with different people, different businesses. You're learning about different positions. You're learning about what they do, and so I actually enjoy. I don't like being stuck here sitting the whole time, but I do enjoy getting to learn about all that. It goes back to one of your original ones there is about the learning. Uh, I wanted to also, I remember I also wanted to interview you because the discussion going on at that event that we were at was about people having to learn AI. And I remember I spoke up. I can't remember actually if I spoke up first or you spoke up first, but it was like my usual position is you don't need to learn AI because people like you, people like me, and the other vendors out there will create the solutions. And I believe that's true for most. In fact, more than a super majority of accountants don't need to actually learn AI because it's going to get built into the tools. And I thought, especially you coming as a younger person, had it somewhat of a similar perspective. Tell us why you think that is.
Yeah,
Or
I don't
maybe I
think
misread.
100%. I don't think everyone needs to be AI native. I think there is this huge pressure and like you read if I go to like the first page of any type of accounting like journal website thing right now, 1,000% there's going to be an AI article up there that's like very doomsday. And I don't see it that way at all. I do think it's important to know basic things like, how are you going to prompt? Like, what does data privacy kind of look like? Like basic things, but that's not even AI specific. That's just like technology in general. Like, how do you use technology appropriately? When to use technology? I think that there's a lot of people out there that will be very invested in AI, but that doesn't mean everyone on your team needs to be. I think it's very important to empower certain people to drive that process and then be able to like basically spread out from there and bring it down and kind of teach the basics of what people need to know. I don't think everyone needs to know how like I don't know, I don't think everyone needs to know like the mechanics, I guess, behind what's happening behind the scenes. I don't think everyone needs to know, and this is how you're going to build a website, and this is how you're going to build your own tools. It's like, okay, I also don't think everyone should be building their own tools. You need to have firm standard things. You need to have things that are vetted and approved and understand how they actually work. If you're not fully confident in your abilities, right, leave that to someone that does know what they're doing. And if you have questions, 100% explore as you will, but don't feel the pressure that now you need to become completely AI fluent and that you're going to be building everything for yourself and you're just going to be like a one-man show. Like, I don't see it happening that way.
100%, 100%. And as a technology risk professional, completely, 100% agree with you. I'm so glad to hear that because I am really tired of this thing out there that's like you need to learn this, you need to learn it, and you need to learn how to do it. And I'm like, no, the others are gonna like I don't even do it
Yeah.
if others not do
I
it.
totally agree. And it's not even just accounting firms, it's happening across the board. I have a friend at Google that is like everyone's like, you need to use the AI, you need to use AI. And now you have all these separate products that kind of do the same things that people have created where I'm like, okay, we could have created one and then just kind of expanded out the best version of it. But now you're dealing with like different iterations that are so similar, but it's like the smallest difference. So now you're not even getting adoption. And I could envision that happening across maybe more mid-sized firms. Like obviously big firms are kind of conducting what you use, but I think there's a big push, at least I've seen on the mid firm size, where it's like use AI, get empowered. Like that's what's going to make us different, right? And it's great to have that energy, but it's being distributed the wrong way. And you're distracting people from maybe parts that they did enjoy. And it's creating this dynamic of like, my job's going to go away because I can't actually get up to speed with building my own agent. Like, I don't think that should be a requirement to be an accountant is knowing how to like fully like hash out your own agent. But it should be like you know how to use it once it comes to you, right? That is like really where I think that information and learning gap is.
I think in accounting that we too often forget that we have to put our own mask on first, like in an airplane, right? Put our own mask on first before we help others. And our whole thing is, oh, there's clients, I gotta help the clients, I gotta do all this stuff. And we're giving so much of ourselves that we're not taking that time to take care of ourselves. It's part of the reason why at the center we created this whole personal resilience program
which is really, you need, for you to be that strong rock and foundation for the clients, you need to be solid yourself first. So it really is a matter of taking care of ourselves, and then we can take care of others. In fact, we can take care of more others the stronger that we are as a foundation. And that's also why a lot of what we do is based in teams, because then even if you're faltering, some of the teammates can jump in to cover or to allow you the time to rest so that you can rest, but we're still holding everybody up. So that's why I think working together in a team is so important, as well as taking care of yourself.
Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. So you're doing two very interesting yet quite different things. If someone was interested in following your career path, and if you need to, you can separate the two.
Yeah.
What would you recommend to them? What should they be doing, like schoolwork? What should they be learning?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily schoolwork. I think it's more getting to know people and putting yourself in different situations. I think go to all those like free hosted meetings where they bring like a CFO in or a VP of this, or they're bringing people in when your teacher or professor brings in someone to a classroom, like take the extra 5 minutes between classes to speak with them, actually ask questions. I think the more you talk to people about what they do and why they do it and why they continue to do it, the more you're going to figure out kind of the pros and cons of going into each space. I think also experiential learning. I had great grades. I like sitting in a classroom, but I actually don't look back on that and say that's what served me most in my career. It's the work experience. My dad put me to work at 13 years old at an ice cream sandwich shop. So like getting work experience, like work in high school, work in college. It doesn't need to be full time. It doesn't need to be like a huge workload, but get that experience, do an internship, even volunteer and, find areas that you're interested in, shadow people. Like I think getting that side of things is really what's prepared me best for my career. I still use the people skills I learned from the ice cream sandwich shop. From even like my first few jobs and my first few internships, I still take connections that I had through those, or even just learning how to like manage up and things like that. That's what's going to teach you the most. It's not sitting in a classroom. Like most jobs, if you go a more traditional route in accounting, don't expect you to know much on the first day. Like maybe it'll help getting your CPA designation. But besides that, it's really like you can't teach people skills. You can't teach a drive very well. So like focus on building up that side of yourself, because everything else is going to come really easily once you have kind of like those softer skills developed.
100%. Definitely. And I never thought about that, this working early, because first started working my junior year in high school. So that you might be right on that, because that all the way, and I worked all the way through college. So I
Hmm.
always had kind of this balancing view and this other experience that also, as you said too, now that I think about it, yes, like school was interesting, class was interesting, but in class, I was always sitting there and then and as their lectures coming, I'm like, no, I just worked on that. Like,
Yeah.
this makes sense now, like why we're doing that and stuff. Wow, that's that's what an interesting reflection.
It's so true. I mean, I have like a little TEDx talk out there about this actually, but I think it's so
Cool.
important to work at a young age. I know a lot of parents are like, we don't want you to work, focus on school, focus on school. It could be 5 hours a week. Like, it doesn't really matter. It could even be a summer job. Like, I don't care the way that it pans out, honestly. Like, just have work experience. It's going to teach you the value of money. It's going to help you even save for retirement. Like, even if you're like, hey, I don't think I'm ever going to do accounting ever after doing like a brief internship, sorting whatever at the office, like that's fine. The reality is like it taught you how to work, and those skills are going to take you really far. It's going to make you a very valuable candidate. And I think it makes a more fulfilling career because when you actually start your first big girl job, right, you already have work experience. You understand the flow of it. It's not all this newness at the same time. And I think that's served me really well because it allowed me to focus again on networking and actually learning at my first job versus figuring out what does a job even mean? Like, how do I conduct
Mm.
myself in a professional setting? So, definitely gives you a leg up.
I love all your perspective. What was it that drew you to accounting in the first place?
I get that question all the time. It's
Especially
the
since
puzzle
you're a
piecing.
people person, because people don't think of this as a people profession. So,
Yeah, I know. It's the puzzle piecing, honestly. In my free time, I'm a big board game, exit room, exit game, like puzzle type person. And I will give a little story. I remember freshman year of college, I was sitting in my classroom. It was Introduction to Financial Accounting. And we were getting all this work in, and I wasn't minding the work. I was sitting there like learning debits and credits, and I was doing really well. And the teacher pulled me aside and was like, "You're really good at this. You should consider pursuing this," right? And I thought to myself, like, I always said I wasn't going to do accounting. What are you talking about? But he kind of explained how it actually works on the job. And I was like, oh, wait, it's very investigative, right? It's very problem solving. It's not necessarily like I'm just in the numbers. And that part of it appealed to me a lot. And then he spoke to me about the flexibility. He said, you might not know, are you interested in fashion? Are you interested in biotech? He goes, no matter what you're interested in, accounting is the language of business. It's the backbone of business. He goes, for the rest of your life, you can work in any industry you want. And I was like, mind blown. That's so wild. And then finally, he did maybe a little bit crass, but an illustration on the board for me where he was like, this is what like accounting people make this year, this year, this year. He goes, this is what my daughter makes. And he fully broke it down for me. And he said, she's going to have kids. She's going to have this, and she's still making this money. And she has this time to spend time with her kids on the side. I went, this is the career for me. I can get flexibility. I can be in any industry I want. I'm never going to get bored. And I get to problem solve and potentially have the ability to be an entrepreneur. Like, completely sold. That sounds fantastic to me. And yeah, the rest is history, I guess.
we need to get you. I know you said you already speak for students. We need to get you in front of more students, because that is an awesome message. That's the message I often take to them as well, especially with the amount that I travel. Sounded like from our prep call that you travel a lot as well. Let's flip it to the other side. So for your clients, have you ever felt like you've saved the day? And can you give us an example of the impact that you've had on your clients?
Yeah. So they'll actually probably listen to this podcast, actually. They listen to a lot of the stuff that I put out there. But I have two brothers that were clients of mine until recently because I'm phasing out of that side of the business. But they are the nicest people you're going to meet. They were moving down to Puerto Rico, and it was a very complicated and emotional process in a lot of the ways. You're leaving behind a life in the US for the foreseeable future to move down to Puerto Rico. And they had a new business they were starting that seemed to have a lot of promise, but there's a lot of moving parts that come along with that. They constantly say that that kind of framework that I provided them for how we're going to move through the process, I sat down with them and said, kind of step by step, this is what things look like 6 months from now. This is what things are going to look like 1 year from now. Here's what you actually need to get done in this time. Here's what we're going to do on our end. And connecting with them with all the professionals, they told me that it saved them completely. They might have left Puerto Rico potentially at that point because it is such an overwhelming process, and getting someone to explain it so point blank, giving you timelines, giving you realistic ways to do things, connecting them exactly with the people. It's not saying, well, you need a lawyer that does this, or hey, you need to do your driver's license this way. It was me spelling out, okay, when you go to the DMV, this is what you need. When you're talking to the lawyer, bring XYZ forms. Like, this is 100% me walking you through that process. And I had a meeting with them the other week, and they said, we would not have been able to do this without you. We genuinely probably would have been at like our first 3 month stage versus a year and a half later, we're like almost fully done with the process, right? So that is one of those things where getting that satisfaction from actually seeing transformation and life change is wonderful. Like, they've been enjoying their life in Puerto Rico. They're enjoying starting their new business, and they would not have been able to do that without my help. So that is so rewarding to me.
That's wonderful. And I often think people, our students don't realize that the reason most of us get into accounting is really to help people. And it's to help our clients or to help their businesses. And it's their success that really gives all of us the pleasure. Uh, we try to take sometimes a superhero slant on this. So what do you think makes a real life superhero?
That's a tough one. I would say people that want to make change in the world. I don't care if it's small change and I don't care if it's big change. I value them both very equally. If that change means you're helping your next door elderly neighbor put out the trash bins because you're in seventh grade and like that's all you can do, I don't discount that anymore, like less or whatever than, someone that's 35 years old and is creating this new startup that's going to completely revolutionize the way we like recycle something, right? Like to me, it's just about the intention behind it. Superheroes are people that want to make change, they want to do good, and they want to do good not just for themselves. I think that self component's very important too, but for other people as well. I think being able to see transformation in something and realize I left my little moment on the world is what a superhero kind of looks like to me.
Ooh, that's a great perspective. I left my moment, my touch on the world. All right, so then what's your superpower?
I'm going to say that I kind of ride or die for people, for better or worse. If you're a client of mine, you're a friend of mine, you're family, I am very caring and I'm very diligent. So I'm maybe not the person people come to like crying emotionally, but I'm definitely the person where there's a problem that needs to be solved and I'm going to be the one to solve it. I'm willing to put myself in uncomfortable situations to be able to get kind of that end result that I want. And I'm able to stand up for people. I'll feed into kind of like that Karen stereotype, but I would like to say I'm a Karen for good. I am someone where if I see something like unjust happening, I will actively speak up about it. I'm not afraid to put myself in a position because I care so much that I am very vocal about the way I feel about things. And I think that really makes me a superhero because sometimes people with bystander bias just stand by, and I'm really not that type. I still remember my bystander bias conversation from like first grade, and I was like, that's never going to be me. So that is one thing that I think makes me really different, and I think that's what makes me a little special, and it applies to both the workplace and my own personal life too.
Love it, Karen for good. Okay, let's flip this one. Also, if that's your superpower, what's your critical vulnerability? Like for
Oh, my
Supergirl, it was
kryptonite.
kryptonite. So yeah, what is it for you?
I would say I'm a little self-critical. I think that imposter syndrome, especially among like women and women of color, is huge. And I think I've grappled with that all my life of like, should I be in this room? Should I not? And it really comes from just me pushing myself forward out of that like comfort zone. But I think I can oftentimes be like, should I even be the one to speak up? Like, do I have the authority where someone's going to believe me? Right. And I think sometimes I do tend to look down on myself where I'm like, you're young, right? Like, you have so much more to learn. I'm sure so and so knows more than you do about this. And it's been a battle to kind of put down that like negative talk and realize my opinion still matters, right? It might not always be the right opinion. I'm wrong a lot of the time, but being able to give that opinion and being open to feedback on it, and allowing myself to be vulnerable has really allowed me to accelerate my career and also accelerate kind of personal relationships too, because I'm willing to deal with that discomfort within myself even.
And that's a really difficult one. I'll tell you, even for me, and I'm 50 now, even for me, that's one that I struggle with is that kind of self-talk and also that self-restraint. Someone had once interviewed me and asked me what if I could go back and give my early career self some advice, what would the advice be? And my advice to myself was speak up early and take those risks earlier, because probably would have done so much more by now if that was the
Yeah.
case.
No, it's true, and everything looks different kind of in the rear view mirror, right? But I think there is something to be said about being confident. And I'm actually even gonna go a step further. I'm gonna say be overconfident. Like for instance, 40 under 40, that's where we met. When I got it, I've had it twice now. I was like, I don't deserve this either time. Like that was my first gut reaction, which is like so sad. I was like, there's so many people out there doing cooler stuff than me. But it's being able to step up from that and being like, no, like I am great. You know what? I'm the best. And like I know that's such a weird thing to think about. You don't necessarily need to be saying that to other people, but in your head, framing it as like, I'm so great. You have to pretend you're more confident than you are to yourself to then be able to actually feel it deep down. And that's what's really helped me, is just like boosting my own ego, like you'd boost a friend's ego in that situation, right? So I think being slightly overconfident is a good thing. It allows you to put yourself in situations that you may not have otherwise. Maybe not like hubris and like being like not accepting of other people's things, but if it's totally internal, right? If it's fully internal of just like, I am a great person and I want to do great things in this world, and I will, I fully support that. I think that narrative is so important to push on yourself.
I'm glad you explained that, because my gut reaction when you said overconfidence was like, ill.
Yeah.
Because everyone knows that person in that room where you're like,
You
you're
shouldn't be
acting
doing
like
it.
you know a lot, but you actually should stop talking. And nobody wants
It's
to
about
tell them
being
that.
open, right? So it's like having that confidence, but also when you're a confident person, being confident means you can be wrong. And I think that's what some people mess up, is like people mistake, I guess, like hubris for confidence, where it's like you're confident, but you can never be wrong. Because you're so confident, you're 100% right, you're never open to things. I think the definition of being confident is being so confident that even if you're wrong, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm still smart. I'm still doing things well. Like that is that step above where I'm really talking about, of like, I would almost say people that are talking and they won't ever listen to anyone are actually not confident. They're very insecure about themselves and never want to be proven wrong. I'm saying confidence is like, I could totally mess up and I'm still going to be okay. And that is the attitude I think I'm trying to push here, is like that type of overconfidence, not I'm the best thing that's ever existed. No one's better than me. Like, no one knows better than I do. That's not the vibe. It's more like, I'm so great and I'm doing really great things that even if something goes wrong, I'm totally okay. I'm still going to live a very wonderful life and it's not the end of the world.
100%, 100%. If anyone wants to get in contact with you, what's the best way to contact you?
You can add me on LinkedIn. That'd probably be the easiest way. I reply to all messages, even from students, from anyone. My LinkedIn is, I think, like linkedin.com/Farris Rachel. But you can just look up Rachel Farris and I'm sure I pop up in the top few. And then you could also check out my websites. They all have kind of inquiry forms, RachelFarrisCPA.com or TaxStackAI.com. And then if you're really curious, like, Rachel, I want your email, I'm sure this podcast has a way you can reach out to them, and you can get my personal email through that too. And I would be happy to hop on a call with anyone listening to this. I am like the person you should reach out to if you want to have a call with a professional. I take like every single call from students, so I would be totally happy to talk to anyone.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, this has been fun. I thoroughly, and I will say again, you stood out at that event because you would make these comments and you would make them confidently. So agree with your confidence side there, and what you said made sense and it resonated with me, which is why I really wanted to interview you, because sometimes I feel like I'm the only person in the room saying some of this stuff, which leads me to question myself. But you actually reinforced a lot of that. So some might call that also, though, confirmation bias. So we might need to watch ourselves on that one. But
yeah, maybe we won't talk about that part.
we'll talk about that another time. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And all of you listening, hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Donny.
The Center for Accounting Transformation provides business professionals with a network for utilizing innovations that are ready for adoption, the training and resources necessary to apply those innovations, and an opportunity to engage the talent and community needed to further the pursuit of innovative accounting practices that drive responsible and mindful business performance. Find out more at our website, www.improvetheworld.net. And if you're interested in sharing your own transformation stories, please contact us there.